I'll find myself wanting to please the crowd. I'll find myself wanting to please the crowd. I'll need you to remind me that I should obey God. That I should obey God. I'll act like I don't have any problems.
I'll need you to show me how to share my struggles with others.
I'll want to have a lot of money so I can buy what I want.
I'll need you to teach me that my things belong to God.
That my things belong to God.
I'll struggle with my looks
and appearance. I'll need you to remind me that God wonderfully made me. I'll tend to think about myself before others. I'll need you to teach me that the last will become first. The last will become first.
The last will become first.
I'll think I'm a lot smarter than I actually am.
I'll think I'm a lot smarter than I actually am.
I'll need you to show me how to learn from God's wisdom.
I'll want to avoid hard conversations.
I'll want to avoid hard conversations.
I'll need you to show me how to speak the truth
in love.
In love.
I'll look for happiness in many different places. I'll need you to show me that joy is
found in following Christ.
I'll find myself stuck in bad habits.
I'll need you to show me the way out.
I'll need you to show me the way out. I'll need you.
I'll need you.
I'll need you.
I'll need you to point me toward Christ when no one else will.
To point me toward Christ when no one else will.
Imagine that young child saying, I'm stuck in so many bad habits. Did you look at her age? Unbelievable. But I want to tell you that is true, because I'm going to tell you a story about one of our daughters, because we used to meet as a family regularly to discuss what progress there's been, have you been in line, have you been disciplined, because we really believe in one thing, that love and discipline go hand in hand. Because God's word says, he who hates his son does not discipline his son, but he who loves his son disciplines him. Now, our one daughter was one of those, I couldn't work out the difference between feistiness and passion. And somehow, between feistiness and passion and brave, things got mixed up. Because I want to tell you, there came a time that we had to ground her. And we said to her, you are grounded, you cannot go out this weekend. And would you believe, it happened again in that week, that she was grounded for the next weekend. And lo and behold, no, it's not possible, but yes it is, she was grounded the following weekend. Would you believe me that this child was so adamant to be feisty in the way that she spoke to us as parents, that she ended up being grounded, are you ready for this? 1 whole year. It was the toughest time of my life as a parent to set boundaries. It's the toughest time of my life to really stick to my guns to say, we said you'll be grounded. Because I want to tell you, so many times we say you're grounded and we give in as parents. 1 whole year. In fact, I remember that we as a whole family went away for the weekend and she had to stay home with Granny because she was feisty, because she wanted to exert her own personality type. And needless to say, a little bit like Dad. I'm sorry. Okay. But it's one of those things. So what did we do? We had a forum that we called Round Table. Why is it round? Because our table was round. You might have to call the square table in your home. But Round Table is what this session is about. It's chapter 8 in How to Get Your Dad Degree. When I say the word Round Table, your mind surely must go to King Arthur and his valiant knights, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly what it was, is that all those knights were sitting around and King Arthur was one of the 12. But noted, he didn't have a higher chair. All the chairs were exactly the same because King Arthur was one of the first leaders that said, I need to be part of my team. Everybody knew he was the main leader. He didn't have to prove it. They respected him anyway. His chair didn't have to look different, but everybody knew that's King Arthur in that chair. Here's the truth about leadership. It doesn't matter where the leader sits around that table. When you communicate, people always look at the leader. That's the case of King Arthur. Now in our home, that's what we did. We had a round table where everybody had the opportunity to get involved in the family discussions. And here's the chairperson used to go from person to person because I wanted to teach my children that it's important that you sometimes will have to lead a discussion. So chairperson to chairperson went from child, to mom, to dad, to child, and so we went around. There came a stage in England where my child was at a business meeting and there was totally no decorum. And she just said, stop, keep quiet. And they went, what? And said, listen, you guys are out of order. This is going nowhere. I will now chair this meeting. And she said, excuse me, he's busy speaking, keep quiet. And she actually helped them understand that they were busy interrupting one another. And in the end, they had a constructive meeting, and they finished off. And the boss, 56 years old, went to her and said, "My, that was brilliant. How did you do that? Where did you learn that?" And she said, "From my dad. Because we used to sit around the round table at home and communicate. And we had opportunities to be the chairperson. And that's why I learned that you chair a meeting in a specific way." So what is the round table about? If we go back and we really embrace our mom and dad agree, on chapter 8 we'll see that a round table is a forum where you have the opportunity to really air your grievances. It's a fair place where children come and say, "Hey Dad, I'm not happy about this." And normally it will have to do with, "But you allowed that child to do it, why not allowing me?" Or, "When that person did the same thing wrong, how come you're sanctioning me far worse and you were less harsh on the other person?" Isn't that true? So it became a forum for the children to sit around and to discuss and to air their grievances. But obviously, for us as parents, we use the opportunity to say it's a fair place to also to correct our children. Because, hey, I'm not perfect, neither are they, and we all realize that. So correcting them around the round table was one way to say, this is out of line or that is out of line, start changing your behavior. Or choose your battles. Like in the case with this one daughter, 1 year later, she got it. But I want to tell you, it's tough as a parent, at all times, to hang in there and to stay committed if you said, my no is my no and my yes is my yes. I wonder what I would have done without the Word of God. I would have given up a long time ago. So apart from the place that it really is where you can correct your children, I'm reminded of prevention is better than cure. Because I think with prevention is better than cure, you and I are willingly involved in a process that can help the child get to a level of better understanding. Because prevent the bad things from happening. It's about communicating. Now, look at this forum where a husband and wife are sitting with all the children and we're speaking as a family. I want to take that a little bit one step back. There are many men here that if I had to ask your wife, does your husband communicate with you often enough? She's going to look longingly into my eyes and go, I wish he would. Guys, if your wife is not in a forum where she can speak to you, she might have to find somebody else to speak to. And best it not be your mother. Because you don't want your mother to know what's happening in your home. So you rather make a plan and create a forum for her to speak to you. Because communication is very, very important. So then the round table is also a place where you must realize it can become a seedbed of negativity. Because what will happen is that the one child will bring out the negative of the next child, and you start getting on the spiral, and everything starts going negative. So watch out. It's not just a place to speak about all the negatives. It also has to be a place to speak about the positives. Now, one of the ways that we used to do this, we used to start our roundtable discussion with, what was your highlight for the day, and what was your low light for the day? Some of those answers were standard. My son, Dad, my low light was getting out of bed today. Man, I just didn't like that. I wanted to crash, I wanted to sleep because I love sleeping. Now you'll find that sanguines, generally speaking, that's the person with an influencing nature. The guys who like all the fun, they want to party throughout the night, but man, they will just sleep until 10 in the morning. They change their day and nights around. It's natural for them. It's just the way that we are. So then, what do we do if there's just all these discussions of negativity and negativity and negativity? Well, the highlights and lowlights also brings the positives. You know what was great about this day? Mom's stew was fantastic. And as you find that every person finds a positive, there's sort of a positive feeling that starts developing. And you know what that says? It's an opportunity for praise and thanks. Ladies, how often do your children and or your husband say, thank you, that was a great meal? You do it day after day and you slog. But you know, every now and then, guys, the ladies want to hear it. Say it. They want to hear it, so say it. That's very, very important. One of the ways that we also drove this round table was based on our value system. We did not have rules in our home. We had values. Because we make the mistake, we put the rules on the fridge, don't we? Rule number 1, rule number 2. No. We decided to call them values. Because we realized that values will get children to rather listen than rule is something that rules are made to be broken. Oh, well, we all know that. So we didn't use the word rule. So now is it values? They couldn't work that one out. So rather drive what you do around your value system. I think that is very, very important. Something else that drives this to the next level is your parenting style. Now, you would have seen in communication that I spoke about the DISC, which are the 4 basic styles that we have available in the family, whether you're father, mother, or the children. We said that the D is the driver. That's the person that's very outgoing of nature. We then spoke about the I, the person that's the influencer, the fun person, okay? And then we spoke about the S, the supporter, the person who wants the support of the whole family. And then last we spoke about the clued up analyst. This is the person who wants to do things the right way. They like dates, they like times, they like facts. That's how they work. Now, if I come back to just help you think of a D as a parent, sitting around the round table is going to play a vital role of how you manage your children. Because if you're a D or a choleric, you are driven, you are strong. But you know what can go wrong? You will have a parenting style that will play out as follows. You will be too authoritative. And because you are too authoritative, guess what will happen to your children? They will become irate or angry or even rebellious because you are too authoritative. So I'm now going to give you, as we continue down this line, the negatives of all these parenting styles. Back in your mind is then what is the right style? We'll get there. Then I'll speak about the I, the influencing person, parent. This is the person that loves fun, influences the family. How do they parent that is negative? They have what we call a rescuing parenting style. That means they want to rescue the kids with whatever they do. The child doesn't put their clothes in the washing basket. The rescuing parent, don't worry, mommy will do it for you. In fact, let me tell you the story. That's exactly what Michelle used to do. My son was in standard 9 playing rugby. And he used to just take off his clothes and leave it on the floor, step out of it literally, and walk to the next place. Until I went, no, round table. Let's get around. And then I went, okay, when Dad calls round table, he was serious. So the next thing was, you need to take your clothing and put it in the washing machine. Because your mother, that is rescuing all the time, is going to teach you habits that you surely don't want because they're going to last throughout your life. Can you imagine an adult male that never picks up any of his clothing? Oh, looking at the woman punching the oaks here, it looks like it's still a habit. All right? So what will happen is the kind of child that will develop is an irresponsible child. Because the child will learn, mom is going to do everything for me anyway, or dad. They become irresponsible. So back to the D, authoritative, and those children become irate or angry. The I, they are rescuing parents, and those children become irresponsible. The S, the supportive kind of parent, when they parent incorrectly, what happens to them? They are fearful parents. They are so scared that when they discipline the child won't love them, that they stop actually disciplining them. Have you seen these children running riot in a supermarket? And the parent says nothing? It's obviously sometimes a S. Because they're the supportive, my child is developing, my child is just a child. And they will always come up with excuses why the child can get away with it. But you know what happens? If you keep on being the supportive parent, that parents in this style that says, I will always be fearful not to correct you, you are developing insecure children. Those children become so insecure that when they grow up, they can't make up their minds for themselves. They're literally like something floating on the water. And they're following the stream. So watch out for that parenting style. And then lastly, I want to speak about the clued up parent, the clued up analyst, the one that normally knows of all the facts and the dates. But this parenting style here becomes too controlling. Where the choleric of the D was authoritative, this becomes a controlling parenting style. Guess what kind of children you produce? Immature children. Immature that cannot make decisions for themselves. Mom, can I do this? Dad, can I do this? They can't do anything without having to ask their parents. Because why? That's exactly the way that you've molded, because you've over-controlled them. So now you can see that all 4 of these are not good. So then the question is, what is good? Well, authoritative parenting. Michelle spoke in her communication about assertiveness. Authoritative parenting is firm and fair. It has an assertiveness to it that says, I will communicate with you with enough confidence but not to overshower you or not to overpower you. And that is the right kind of parenting style. So watch out when it comes to your way that you handle your children around the round table, that these 4 styles don't influence the decisions that you make. What then is the process of the round table? I believe the round table is there to say, let's sit down, it's time to communicate. This might sound odd to you, but we took minutes of our family meetings. I mean, I want to tell you, when a child came to a specific point and took a chance, I said, oh, no. I remember that about 3 months ago, we minuted and we agreed that we're not going to do that. And that these are the ways what we accepted. And we were able to go back to minutes. Now you say to yourself, but hold on, this is not a boardroom. Well, it's a round table. It's a mini boardroom. Because the children have to learn that with communication, there are certain disciplines in play, that when you speak, you keep quiet. When this person is speaking, you don't interrupt. You also then test understanding. Is this what you said? Is this what I hear you say? All the principles of communication come into play around the round table. So it's a place to communicate. Apart from a place to communicate, it's also a place where you will have the opportunity to do group discipline if you have to. I remember one time, our kids were in one of those band moves where they were interwoven, they were together as thieves. And it doesn't matter what we did as parents, if we said north, they said south. Until Michelle knocked on the door one day, just about to speak to them, and she heard, I think we should divorce our parents. Oh, baby. Oh, they never should have done that. Because then Michelle just said, okay. And she turned around and she came looking for Dad. Well, that was the first time and the only time that we ever disciplined all our children collectively. And I want to tell you, I can tell you that you have to realize that these kids with their different parenting styles, they also need to be parented differently. Because the D, or the choleric, he only understands one thing, love. Okay? I should have had more of that love. You would agree with me. What about the person here, the high I? How do you really discipline that child? This is so key, by isolating that child. You take away the television, you take away their friends, and you isolate them from the things that they enjoy. That's how you discipline this child. Whereas for the choleric, or the D, that child just understood one thing, love. The I, you isolate them. What about the S? There's only one way to actually discipline them, and that is through relationship. You would say something like this, you broke my heart when you did that. And the child will go, I don't want to break your heart. So you will use the relationship. What about the child here, the clued up analyst? There's only one way to discipline them, facts. You tell them, you had to pack away your toys on Tuesday, you didn't pack it away. You had to do this on Wednesday, you didn't do that. By Thursday, I'd get it, Dad, thank you. So as you give them facts, they basically get it. So the way that you even discipline these children is different. It's never the same. The next thing that we have around this round table is to say that we basically want to have what we call an interruption rule. You know, there's often times where you're busy as a father, and you're so busy that right now you don't want to be interrupted. But we have to teach our children, because what they do is they're so excited. Dad, 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 Dad. And I'm busy speaking to one of my business colleagues. It's not the right time to interject. So we have to say to them, what do we do? Well, if you can imagine this is me for a moment as dad, this is what my child would have to come and do. They just come next to me, and they just keep their hand on my arm. They don't say Dad, but we agreed this is the interruption rule. When you put your hand against my arm and you wait, it means wait for Daddy to finish, and then I literally would, yes, how can I help you? We taught them the interruption rule, but I want to tell you, if you have 4 clever teenagers like I had, sometimes looked like they were laying hands on all of us, okay? But the interruption rule works because it says you don't have to say mommy or daddy or dad, and even up to today, Michelle and I use that. Even when we do co-public speaking, if she is teaching and I would like to interrupt, I just touch her arm. And she knows she finishes her point, and then I have my opportunity. Use the interruption rule. But now when you sit around that round table and discipline comes across, do you always make wise decisions? Answer, no. What then about the child? Do we just tell the child, because I said so? Or do we mature to a level where the child says, Dad, here's the next step. May I appeal, please? We actually have an appeal procedure at home, where the child can sit around the round forum and say, Dad, can I appeal because I really think that was an unfair decision? And you say, let me hear why, and allow your child the reasoning, very much the same as you would have in the corporate world. But your children need to know that with communication, it is always from both sides. Remember the principles of communication. Without feedback, you don't have proper communication. And it takes a mature parent to say, why are you appealing? So let's just recap on those. We have an interruption rule that says they interrupt in a certain way to get your attention. Can you imagine if you can teach a child 3 years of age, instead of just pulling your pants all the time, just to touch you when they really want to speak to you? You say to me, but how do I teach a child at that age? Well, through proper discipline. Because I can tell you now, a child has to realize that for every action, there's a consequence. And you can teach a child about discipline before the age of 2 years old. Before 2 years old, they can understand no. But you know what our children do? They train us. No, no, and then we yell no, and then the child stops. They've actually trained you very well. They know that by the time that you've yelled the third time, then you're serious. Now that is wrong, because you see, when God says that you and I have to basically teach our children, He only gives one rule. Children, obey your parents. So what you want to do is teach them first-time obedience. You want to teach your child that when I say no, or when I say yes, I'm going to say it once. The second time, well, you've chosen your consequence. And then you parent them according to the style of the child that will be beneficial to them. Don't let them get away with it. Just don't. It's very important. So that will be then the appeal procedure where they can come and appeal against any decision that you've made. What about boundaries? Every parent battles with boundaries. I mean, if you say to a child, there's the line on the carpet, don't go across it, what will they all do? They put their toes on the line and they sort of check you out, and then just when you're not looking, they want to put their toe over. I mean, that's natural for all of us. I mean, I just think we're adults, but we do exactly the same thing. Just don't tell me not to do it, and then I want to do it. Imagine having 1, 2, 3 jars of cookies. Guess what you're going to do? If I say to you, you can have cookies from the left or from the right, but you can't have from the middle cookies. They're all exactly the same. Which one do you want? The middle one. It's natural. That's what all of us do. So we have to say to ourselves, because of this natural tendency to want what we shouldn't have, boundaries have to be tested. The first boundary, let's quickly go through the various ages. I think the youngest boundary that comes into play is bedtime. You need to help your children understand that there is a bedtime for adults, there's a bedtime for children. And the most healthiest thing that you can have is that a brother or sister has a brother or sister. Because why? You need to teach them from a young age that if the 5-year-old is allowed to go to bed, call it at 6:30 at night, that the 4-year-old will have to go to bed at 6 o'clock. The older brother or the older sister has the advantage of they can stay up a little bit longer. So that when they grow up, it's not strange for them to see that when he is 13, he goes to bed at 9 o'clock, but I'm 12, I have to be at 8:30, or whatever your curfew is. But you also always have these steps of growth in terms of bedtime for children. The next thing that you will hit, apart from bedtime, will be pocket money. You know, ka-ching. Because kids want pocket money. And I want to say to you, we will make the fatal mistake of giving the same pocket money to all the kids. I think that's wrong. I think the child needs to know that with age comes added responsibility. Quote unquote, my quote. With age comes added responsibility. The reason why children get pocket money is to teach them the principles of finances. It's not to spoil them. It's to teach them what you do with the money that you receive. So always make sure that the child that is older gets a little bit more money. And then have a stepped approach going down to it. Pocket money is something that you can do. I can tell you that when our kids were small, they actually had a saving box with 3 little sections in it. The first section was, what we taught them was to give. The second section was to save. And the third section was to spend. And you know what? They understood it. Because the first section that said to give, they knew on Sundays they would take out and take to church because they were going to give. But my son, he didn't want to take it to church. He wanted to give it to the beggars on the street. And I said, that's fine, as long as you give. And the second one was saving. As they get older, you should actually say that there should be a box with 4 slots. Because not only do you want to save, we also want to learn to invest. Because that's the next thing that goes hand in hand. Save and invest in one category, and the last one, now you can spend it. Spend what is left. Because that's how it works. So you have to set boundaries with bedtime. You have to set boundaries with pocket money. And the next one will be, what time must you be home? I remember the golden rule with myself. When that sun is set, you better be home. That's a great rule, because why? Security. If it's dark, you better be home. Then you come to an age where you grow up and you're allowed to go up when it's dark. So what do we do now? Set your time specifically. And be very consequent in terms of, if I said you have to be back at 8 o'clock, if they're not back at 8 o'clock, you have to take action. That's what discipline does. It says, I love you enough to discipline you. And they must suffer the consequences of their own actions. I mean, they chose. Obviously, if there was a real specific reason, that's where we show grace. You and I make that difference. So that will be what time must be home. And then lastly, the other thing is driving. Man, you'll hit that stage now. Remember, ours were like organ pipes. 15, 14, 13, 12. Imagine when they came to 16. Now it's driver's license time. Okay, now I want to learn to drive. So we have this thing in play that said, by 16 you get your driver's license or your learner's license. By 17, you go to the rugby field and we teach you how to drive. So that you, by the time you hit 18, you can get your fully fledged license. So there's a time and a place for everything. So then when it comes to this issue of boundaries, you sit around the round table. I want to encourage you as a family, use your round table to its fullest capacity. It's there waiting to happen. You just have to choose to do so. Remember, rotate the chairperson like King Arthur did. He wasn't more important than the men. Make sure it's a safe place to come and communicate. Use all the principles of communication. But remember this. Ephesians 4:15 says, speak the truth in love. I want to encourage you. You can speak the truth in love to your child sometimes, but you can hurt their feelings. Even you as an adult can get that truth. So I say do it this way. First the grace. We all are sinners. Then the truth. No. Put something in between. First the love. So give the grace. We all are sinners. Then do it in a loving way. And then lastly, now you speak the truth. That way you have mandate. And remember the starting clip that said, Mom, Dad, I need you. I need you to help me take decisions. I want to tell you, I believe the best place for that in the home is round table. Thank you.